Welcome to the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, a weekly broadcast sponsored by CVC Success Group, hosted each week by industry speaker, coach, author, and educator Jerry Eisenhower. Our presentations are produced to assist business owners and managers in turning their business dreams into their business realities. And now, here is your host, Jerry Eisenhower.
And I want to welcome you to another episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. This is sponsored every episode by CVC Success Group. Remember, our goal, our mission is to help you turn your business dreams into your business realities. Well, today is episode number 79, and I got a really great mentor of mine. He's one of our coaches who Cheryl and I go to. He's a very good friend, and you got to work really hard to be one of his friends. I hope I rate up there with others. He didn't delete me off Facebook. He's an author. He's been a New York Times bestseller. He is a coach. He speaks. And like I said, Cheryl and I think very highly of this guy. This is one of the guys that if I had a problem, I'm going to ring his chimes and say, man, we need to talk. I heard of this guy some years ago because somebody told me, you need to look at what this guy's saying. And I looked up there, and here was this guy with a big old handlebar mustache, and he was talking about how you were your own problem. I got to know him further because I went through speaking training with him. And from that point, we got into a group coach called UBS Intensive. And so we're able to see each other 3 times a year, and we're able to have coffee, able to have dinner together, get to know each other. And I think I know him pretty good, and I think he knows me pretty good at this point. And I think there's a lot of respect here between the two of us. So my guest this week is none other than that guy that bills himself as the irritational speaker of America. And I can tell you before we get started, the most important things to this guy is his family, his bulldog, and his barbecue. Okay, that's right there is the most important things to this guy. Now, he taught me a lot. He taught me about developing a point of view and other things. And like I said, he's been a great coach for us for a couple of years. So, Larry, you ready to rock and roll today, brother?
I was born ready. Let's do it.
He was born ready on the plains of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Okay, I think you were you born in Tulsa, or you just lived there for a while?
I was born in Muskogee, Oklahoma, just right outside of Tulsa, but I lived in Tulsa a lot of years.
That's it. So anyway, I got a couple questions for my buddy Larry today. And what this is, and I want you to understand, Larry has distinct points of view. And Larry, sometimes people don't agree with his points of view, which is okay. This is one of the things you got to know about this guy. If you disagree with him, that's fine. Just don't disrespect each other. Larry, is that a pretty good way to describe you?
Pretty good way to do it. I don't mind making people mad. In fact, I like to make people mad because if I can make you mad, you'll start to think. And I think the biggest thing lacking right now in society is people thinking. I like to make people think.
That's it, brother. And, you do that because, and this is the really neat thing, and I tell a lot of people, because in this UPS, this is really amazing. We go to this group, and we have 3 great coaches and mentors in there. And this is the really great thing. They don't agree all the time. And what's good about this is it gives you a distinct point of view from 3 different people. I've never seen them disrespect one another for their opinions. Yeah, we may cut up and we may joke a little bit, and they may beat up on Scotty McCain sometimes. It's like he's the whipping boy in there. But again, there's an ultimate respect here that's really hard to find. So Larry, let me ask you this question. Let's take you back that you're running a company some years ago, and you got some employees on there, and you're hiring a new person. And you can ask this person one question. What would you ask this question to ascertain if they're the right person for your team?
I tell you, Jerry, I think it all comes down to value. I would make it clear to them that there's a lot of people looking at this job, but I'm looking at a lot of people for the job. And I would ask them what value they bring to the job. I like people thinking in terms of value. Most people don't think in terms of what do I bring to the job that's unique, that he can't get from anybody else. And I like putting the stress that they know they're not the only applicant. There's a lot of people out there who want this job. And so I want them thinking in terms of the value they bring. We're always paid in terms of value. We're always rewarded for the value we bring to the marketplace. That's how customers reward us. The company rewards us. That's how our boss will reward us. And so when they start, and most people have never been asked the question around value. So when they start thinking in terms of, damn, this guy wants to know about value, I never thought about it like that. That sets them up for working for me, because with me, working for me is about bringing value to the customer, to the workplace, to the co-workers. It's all about that.
You know, that's one of the things that I often hear you say, Larry, is that word value, taking value to your customers. And where your company's providing value, that's what I talk in seminars a lot about, selling your value and promoting your value. So that's a great one right there. So let me ask you this next one. Now, we've hired this new person, and in this job, you're going to be in charge of onboarding this person. And onboarding, it means we're at our first day and we're going through all the stuff that we want this guy to do, which is a failing of many people, in my opinion. We're not properly onboarding people to come to work for us. I call the first day the most important day anybody to work for you, because this is when you set the stage for success. It's like walking into school that first day, going into kindergarten. But if you were doing this onboarding, and we've already determined that value, maybe this could be it again, what would be the one thing you want to make sure this person learns from this onboarding experience with Larry Winget? What is that?
Well, the one thing is where I'm stuck. I'm going to give you a couple of things. First of all, I believe that everybody on the first day needs a very clear description of what their job really is. I'm always amazed that more people do not have a job description. You've got to have a sheet of paper that says, this is what is expected from you, because you have no right to go back later on as the boss, the owner, the manager. You don't have any right to go back later on down the road when they've screwed up if you don't have a sheet of paper that says, remember when you came to work and on the first day I said, this is everything I expect from you? That's what your measurement is. That's what you go back to. That's your reference point. So first of all, I would make sure they do have a solid job description. These are the expectations, the requirements, what I expect from you on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and this is how you will be measured. That's first. But what I would also want them to know is that they, at the end of the day, they cost something. And I would explain to them that their cost is much higher than whatever their salary is. And I would go into great detail about everything they cost. And so they understood it, right down to the nickels and dimes. This is your cost while you work for me. This is how you doing what I expect impacts every coworker and impacts the customer and impacts this company's bottom line. Here's what I want you to remember every single day you work for me. You have to be worth more than you cost. That's what I'm looking for. Because when you cost me more than you're worth, I'll go find somebody else. I have to look at you as a profit center, not as an expense.
Do you often find when you're coaching people, it may be in our group coaching that we're in the meeting there, or in your private coaching sessions with people, do you find that many employers don't do this critical role?
I think most don't. It's not down to many. I think almost all don't do what I've just said. They never explain. I'm right down to the janitor. What's the janitor's job? The janitor's job is to be worth more than he costs. The CEO's job is to be worth more than they cost. Most people think what they cost is just their salary. And then they never think that every single day, the person who's writing the check to make sure they get paid that salary has to see a profit. They have to. You cannot be an expense. And so when people start to think of their role as a revenue center, as a profit base, that's where we start to change their mind, and it gets them more, goes back to what we started with, thinking of the value they bring.
Okay. So it's a leadership issue. This is where we're not properly leading people from the beginning, and where employers have got to up their leadership game and stop assuming that people know these things. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And part of that is just good communication. Most people, you just said the word assume in there. We assume that maybe they've had that same job for working for somebody else. So the assumption is, well, they already know. They don't need to have it explained to them. No, never make any assumption. Sit down and go through the details and document everything. So you can go back to, do you remember when we had this discussion? Do you remember when I showed you on this paper, it was covered? I believe you work from document, not from thought, not from memory. And so everything that we're talking about here comes down to good leaders never assume. Good leaders explain everything. Good leaders set expectations. They teach people how to achieve those expectations, and then they manage to those expectations and apply consequences. Consequences are both positive and negative. They apply the consequences when they either do the job as expected or don't do the job as expected.
You know, Randy Biswell, and you've heard me talk about Brandy on my team before, who's our onboarding expert here and trains in that particular aspect. Larry, she's going to be jumping up down with joy when he hears what you say, because this is exactly what she teaches, to go through this process, to dedicate this time. And so often we deal with failure later because we didn't start out right. And that's what people have got to understand. You've got to build that foundation, and that foundation starts in that interview process, that assessment process, that onboarding process. You know, some of the things that you've heard me talk about and is figuring out the stress testing, figuring out when an employee's not going to, explode in the pressure of that job. I think it's because we're not prepping them for that job we're hiring them for.
Jerry, 2 nights ago, my little neighborhood here, all the guys get together once a month, the people in my neighborhood, and just have a cocktail and say hi to everybody. And that's not normally my kind of thing, but I agreed to go the last couple of times. And I'm sitting there talking to a brand new guy, and he says, "What do you do for a living?" And I tell him, and I said, "What do you do for a living?" And he said, "Well, I own a company back in Indiana." I said, "I bet it's hard to manage a company from Phoenix when the company's based in Indiana." He said, "You know, it really is. I've hired 4 operating officers, and I've had 4 operating officers in 4 years." And he went through everything that was wrong with every one of them. And I said, "Really? Well, are you looking for some feedback?" And he said, "Sure." I said, "You're a lousy manager." And he said, "No, they're lousy managers." I said, "You hired them. You were responsible for making sure they do the job. You were responsible for making sure they understood what the job was. You were also responsible on a daily basis to make sure the job was getting done. Don't go back a year later and say, you didn't do what I expected, and fire them. That's unfair to them. You're the lousy manager." Now, that's the first time I ever met that guy, and it probably, he doesn't think a whole lot of me, but he said, "I'd never looked at it like that this could possibly be my fault." I said, "Well, it is your fault." And that's the mistake managers make. They bring people on, they don't do the work that we just talked about, and then someday down the road they go, "Well, damn, this isn't working out at all." And then they go fire a poor guy who never, ever had a chance to begin with, simply because they were not, as you call it, onboarded. They were not onboarded in the proper way. They were never set down. Expectations were never made clear. They were never communicated what they needed. And then they were never told what would happen when they met expectations and when they didn't.
That's it. So again, we're dealing with a lot of areas. A lot of people have these frustrations. And this kind of takes me to the next question. And you probably heard this. You've probably been in front of a group of people. And, so people understand Larry Winget's not a good socializer. There's nothing, when you said you went to this neighborhood event, and I'm thinking to myself, Lord of mercy, how did Rosemary, how did she get you to go to this? This had to be pretty tough. Because I know what you truly enjoy doing. In fact, we were recently at your house, and as I was leaving, I even told you were sitting there with Leon. I said, "I know what you're thinking. How long before I get all these people out of my house and life goes back to normal?" And these are people that are your friends, but at the same time, I know Larry. That's your life right there. So when you hear somebody come up to you or raise their hand in seminar and said, Larry, I got a problem. You know, there ain't nobody out there that wants to work no more. There ain't nobody worth a hill of beans, and I can't grow my company because I can't find nobody to work for me because there ain't nobody fit to work. It may be this younger generation, it may be the millennials or whatever
Yeah.
we want to blame. When you hear that, what goes through your mind?
Well, I think this is not a very creative person who's saying this to me, because there's always resources out there if you know how to go after them. The other thing that always comes to mind when somebody starts complaining or even thinking about hiring new people is, are you getting the most from the people you've already got? And I think that's an important thing. People are an expense if you bring on too many and you're not getting all you need from them. So, Jerry, what I think people need to do is look at the resources they already have and say, am I getting the most from the people I already have? That will tell you whether you really need more people or not. I think that every company in America right now could fire 10% of their staff and still the same amount of work could get done. I'm convinced of that. I think we've got that much fat in every company around, 10%. But it means that you have to be on top of the people you've already got, on top of the task, make sure that you're not requiring things of them as the manager, as the leader, that takes up a lot of time that doesn't need to be spent. Are you doing the most important things every single day? Are their priorities clear? Are you as the leader keeping crap out of the way so they can get their job done to the best of their ability? Are they so clear on what should be done and how it can be done that they're able to maximize the time that they have while they're on the job? When we do all of those things, I bet you can get by with fewer people than you've got right now. But when the time comes that you do have to have more people, I believe there's always someone out there who wants a better job. Even though there's a lot of people out there who are employed, and employment's good right now, and it's hard to find good people. If you are a better company to work for, if it has been clearly communicated to the marketplace who you are, what you stand for, what your values are, core values, honesty, integrity, doing the right thing. So people say, that's a guy I want to work for, that's a company I want to work for. Then I believe somebody will leave the job they got to work for you if you are seen as a better company to work for.
Now, if you're listening to this, do you understand when you ask Larry Winget a question, you're going to get an answer. Sometimes that answer may hit home kind of hard. But let me tell you a little further about Larry. I know that Larry doesn't offer an opinion like this unless he's done some research into this. I know that he would read deeply. I know that if he went into this, and I also know that he talks a lot with other people, such as Randy Pennington, another coach. And when you look at it, Larry would tell you real quick, if you want to talk about culture, you talk to Randy Pennington. He's probably one of the best in business if you want to talk about these things. But this is what you've got to do. And when you ask for an opinion, like the guy at the cocktail party, you look at this and you're really trying to help someone, and you just can't dance around it. You got to give that answer a lot of times. So Larry, let me go to another one here. You're running a business and you've hired this excellent guy, but all of a sudden, he just starts to turn from good to bad. And when this happens, how do you suggest turning them? I often use the term, and I get this from one of the great Southern television shows, the Andy Griffith Show, and quote my friend, mentor, Barney Fife, when he told Andy, said, Andy, you gotta nip it in the bud. And he was talking about Opie. And now, Barney never had any kids, and he didn't offer the best advice, but that nip it in the bud's a pretty good one. So, Larry, this is what we call coaching sometimes, or we call management. But how do you turn that person? Because you got to catch it early before those habits exist there. So what's your ideas to turn this person?
Well, first of all, I think we're too quick to blame the person. I think we have to look at what have we done first. And it's real hard for a leader to look in the mirror and say, have I changed the way I treat them? Have I given them extra work? Were they so good that I sort of started to take them for granted, and I maybe took advantage of them, and I put them do it because I trusted them and they were a great employee. I had them doing my job for me, like mentoring other people and doing that. Did I just overload them, and now I put them in a situation where they are no longer happy and they're not doing a good job because they feel taken advantage of? Look at yourself first. That's the first thing. The next thing is that if you do determine that you're in the clear and it really is them, the first time you realize something's going on, you just kind of increase your awareness, so you start to watch a little more. So you start to be more sensitive to what's going on. Because maybe it was just a fluke and it was a one-time thing, but when you see it really going south and you have a good indication that what's going on has become a trend, then you sit down and have a conversation. You've got to talk to them about what's going on. Most people are not willing to have the conversation, because conversations around what's going on with you, what's wrong, that's uncomfortable. And people are not willing to have uncomfortable conversations. So have a conversation. See if they'll open up to you. Find out. Just ask.
Right. And you know, one of your students who works with us is Erin Marcus. And this is one of the areas that Erin talks about and she speaks on, is how to have that difficult conversation. And that's what people have to do as leaders. You have to sit down. You've got to have that difficult conversation, but you got to be able to listen. Listen, not just to reply, but listen to understand what's down inside of that person. Yeah. What's that wall that's coming up, and how do you penetrate through to it? But let me ask you this. Can you care too much for someone that it reduces your ability to be a leader because you care so much? You're scared to hurt their feelings. Now, you and I both speak with no filters, okay? Let's get real here. We have a problem of maintaining our passions, which you identified to me. Stop using that, because passion means you're totally out of control, right? That's what you share with me. So, but can you care too much, Larry, that you can't be an effective leader?
You know, one of the problems, Jerry, is that people they forget that business is business, and you've got to be able to separate the way you handle an employee and the way you handle a friend. You can be friendly with your employees, but there's going to come a time in a business where you have to have a difficult. I got landscapers going on here. Holy crap, I'm walking around. I always got some kind of noise going on. Anyway, you have to be careful how you treat this person, because there will come a time in a business where you're going to have a difficult conversation. I don't care who they are, what role they play, there will be a difficult conversation. And the problem is, people don't understand as leaders that they are responsible to their people, but not for their people. Now, you've heard me talk about that before. Yeah. You are responsible to them, not for them. And you can't control the way they're always going to react. You can't control the way they're going to behave. Your responsibility is to, number one, your responsibility is to your customers. And you have to remind them of that. My loyalty is to the people who pay the bills and keep the doors open, and that would be customers. And if you get in the way of me and the customers, then you and me are going to have a problem. Now, that's hard to do if this person is your buddy, your friend. It's even harder to do if it's your brother, your uncle, your daddy, your wife, whatever. Listen, I've run my business for 30 years with my wife. And before I was in the speaking business, we ran a telecom business, telecommunications, selling telephone systems. And you work with Cheryl. You know how it is. What I was very clear about is I'm the president and this is my job. And you are the vice president and you are the sales manager. And here's the deal. I'm the boss. As long as we're at work, I'm the boss. The minute we leave work, you again are the boss.
You know, you took that exactly where I wanted to go, because I was going to actually give that example, because we actually talked about that when we were in Phoenix just a couple weeks ago. And it was all about, just like you said, in your business, you're the boss. In my business, Cheryl works in this business and this is Jerry's business. Now,
Yep.
Cheryl has her own business, which is the outdoor living business. That's her business. I
Yep.
don't offer input. I don't tell her how to run it. I don't, I'm not, sometimes I wonder, it's like, just what's going on over there? How's things going? Sometimes I'll say, hey, how's your sales going? But it's making conversation and, making sure everything's good. So it's more of a conversation, but walking in there and saying, hey, you need to do it this way or that way, that's not real conductive. And that's like I said, I think we're both the same way. When it comes to the house, I would say that if Rosemary wants a couch, she's going to get a couch. Am I right? And I
That's
would say
exactly
if you want a grill, you're going to get a grill. That's the way it is.
That goes back to sort of what we said a while ago about job descriptions. We all have a role to play. And the better we understand each other's roles, the more we will stay out of their territory and in our own territory, which allows us to apply our true expertise to what we are paid to do. And the other thing that I really want to emphasize in that statement I made a couple of minutes ago is our loyalty is to our customers. And I take a lot of crap for that because people believe that their loyalty has to be to their employees. I am loyal to employees. I have always been very good to employees when I've had them in the past. But the employees don't pay the bills. Customers pay the bills.
Okay.
And so if I have a good customer, I'm not saying you take their side. I'm saying overall, the marketplace will be where my loyalty lies. And
Gotcha.
Nobody's going to get between their money and me.
Got you covered. Now, Larry, I'm going to switch sides a little bit. And a lot of people may not know this about you, but I do know because you didn't become a world-renowned speaker that could command big bucks on the stage overnight. And there was a previous life, and you've shared with me of your time when you were doing sales training in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And this was a time of a change in your life. We both talked about that. And you were doing sales training. And
Yep.
you're a very effective sales trainer. Now,
Yeah, I'm good at that.
right. So here's one of the things I've heard you say that I've repeated and credited you with. But I'm going to ask you the question. Larry, why do people buy?
Well, there's a lot of good answers to that. I don't know if the one you're referring to that you said you credit me with, but let me give you my definition of selling, Jerry. Selling is the act of getting other people to value your product or service more than they value the money it takes to get it. Selling is the act of getting other people to value your product or service more than they value the money it takes to get it. So that in order to make that happen, they have to know what their problem is and what that problem costs them. People buy to alleviate pain. And if they don't understand the pain, nobody pays to solve a problem they don't believe they have. And if they don't understand that they have a problem and it's costing them something, then your solution is not going to have enough value for them to part with their money. Now, I don't know what answer you were looking for, but I can expand on that more. So go ahead.
This is the one I've heard you say before. 70% of people buy to eradicate a pain.
Yeah.
30% of people buy because of their desire. And so often people are trying to sell they're trying to sell a solution that the people don't realize they have a problem with. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's what I meant when I said nobody will pay money to solve a problem they don't believe they have. But we are so solution focused that we go in selling, let me tell you what I do. Let me tell you what I offer. Let me tell you what my products are. It's not even established they have a need yet. I mean, if anybody here that's listening to us right now is on LinkedIn, you've connected with people, and the instant you connect, they're trying to sell you crap. And I've got a cut and paste that I send every one of them. I said, the number one rule of business is find a problem and solve it. You don't know if I've got the problem. You're just cramming your solutions down my throat, and I find that offensive. And that's when it becomes spam. And yet we spam people in the marketplace every day when we're calling on them, when we're knocking on doors, when we show up at their house, and we are assuming they have a problem. We haven't gained agreement to the problem. They don't understand they've got a problem. We just start selling them our crap and saying, this is what it costs, you ought to buy it. Why?
How many people have ever tried to sell you the success path to write a book to get on the bestseller list, Larry?
Jerry, hundreds and hundreds of people on LinkedIn will write and say, let me tell you how to write a book and maybe you can get on the bestseller list. And I go, well, I got 6 New York Times bestsellers right now. Maybe I'll do a little research. It's really offensive. And yet, what we see on LinkedIn is what we see in the marketplace too, and it doesn't matter what the industry is. People are calling folks up or knocking on their door, seeing them in person, trying to sell them a solution to a problem that it has not been agreed upon yet. It really exists.
Okay. So Larry, let me ask you another question. This involves how good your crystal ball is. You know, we've been on a bull market economy for about 10 years now.
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen in the next 12 to 24 months? Is this a time to buy cash? Is this a time to splurge and buy nice things? Is it a time to hold on to it, or is it time to buy? What's your opinion?
Well, you know, it depends on a lot of things, Jerry. If you're looking at your personal finances, a lot of it depends on your age. Are you at the peak of your earning? Because I think the next 12 to 24 months are going to stay pretty good. I really do. We're in an election year. Election years typically make things pretty good. We're not seeing, regardless of what some people say, we're really not seeing any problems in the marketplace right now. It's pretty good out there for everybody, and I expect it's going to stay that way for 12 to 24 months. In terms of on a personal level with your finances, and I spent a lot of time in the personal finance part of the world out there, and had the television show on A&E talking to people about their finances, and I still get a lot of financial questions. If you're young and in the height of your earning potential, you got a little better shot, and you can vary your degrees of saving and investing and spending. If you're older and in your declining income, and by the way, companies get the very same aspects. You know, they're in a peak, and then they can be in a decline, depending on where you are in your industry and where you are in the marketplace and what your desires are. So where do you fall, and how conservative should I be, and how much money should I be willing to spend? Here's what I know. Most people don't have near enough money saved, not near enough money. And the first thing I tell everybody to do, whether it's a business or whether it's your personal, make sure you got some cash on hand that you can survive 6 months. And if most of society had followed that, we would not have had a housing crisis in 2008. There wouldn't have been one, because people would have had enough cash reserves to keep making their payments. We have problems today. Businesses have problems today. Individuals have problems today because they don't have enough cash reserves on hand to weather any kind of blip. And what goes up will come down. So I think it's going to be good for a while, but we will eventually see a blip, and you better be financially prepared for it.
So part of your advice is get your house in order, make sure you've got the reserves, don't operate on the edge.
Listen, things are good right now. That's the perfect time to be stacking it deep.
Gotcha. So the next one, Larry, this is something you helped me with as I came in, started training with you as a speaker. And one of the things that you told me was one of the hardest tasks you ever gave, it was the second hardest task you ever gave me, was developing what we called a POV, a point of view. And I really dug deep on this. And the point of view I have involves pain and personal pain. And we're both guys that can tell you about some pain in our life, can't we? I mean, really, the first time I ever spoke with you and I nudged it and kind of kidded you about the pain I'd been through, and you had just went on the stage and I said, hey, brother, I got you beat. Remember that day in Atlanta,
Yep.
Georgia? So anyway, does it take pain for people to change? I mean, we talk about people that changing their buying habits, of changing their lifestyles. Does it take pain for most people to go through that change?
Well, I would love to say I was able to learn lessons without the pain. That's never been the case for me. I kind of got to have it hurt before I get smart enough to go, you know, it's like that old thing about a cat sits on a hot stove. He'll never sit on it again. You know, that sort of thing. I kind of got to sit on the hot stove, and I got to feel the pain. Most people these days, and this is where we're making a mistake from a societal level, is we're saving people from experiencing the pain so they never really learn the lesson. Consequences drive behavior. And if we rob people of the consequences, then our likelihood of changing their behavior goes way down. So I believe you have to feel some pain. I believe that buying comes from understanding your problem, feeling the pain, and then you find a solution. That's what we were just talking about in terms of selling. I think that getting your life on track is sometimes you have to feel the pain of it going off track. Everybody probably listening here, if you're like normal folks, you've had a hangover. You have a hangover, you wake up the next day and say, I don't think I'm going to do that again. It was the pain of that hangover says, maybe I should have stopped one quicker last night. Yeah. You got to feel that, though, in order to make that change. And so, Jerry, bottom line, yeah, I think you got to feel the pain.
Okay, so and you agree. That's what it appears to me from a coaching business. People are, and I often ask people, I even call it, there was a magic moment when somebody, it's just like somebody comes to you and they say, Larry, I need you as a coach. I need you as a mentor. There's a pain point that I call it turns into a magic moment. And many times that's the good thing about pain. I mean, I can tell you a magic moment. I can tell you the day. I can tell you who I was speaking with. When I hit this point of, okay, there's my solution. But I had to be in that pain to figure out how to go there to make that into what I call the magic moment of transition of life. And we keep going through this, you know, as you know, one time you told me about a year ago, it's like, Jerry, you have changed so much since I first knew you, okay? Because that's what we try to do. And I think you honestly believe that I'm busting my butt for what I do. I think you honestly believe and see how hard I work. And but you see those kind of things, and it comes in from a lot of times pain. It's what we do go through to get to that point, you know. That's like me, you, everybody else. But I wanted to get you, if you think everybody's that way. So let me ask you this. People throw their hands up. My people just can't meet my demands. I'm just ready to shift it up. I'm just gonna go back to one guy. It's just gonna be me. You know, is that the right attitude to have?
Sometimes. I mean, really. Sometimes what you got to do is reassess and say, I grew too fast. This is not what I had in mind. This was not what I dreamed up when I decided I want to go into business for myself. You realize at some time that maybe you're working to support your employees and your ego instead of working for what you really went into business to do, which was to have freedom. Listen, once you have your own business and you got a bunch of employees, you got no freedom. You know that. People who think they're going to start their own business and that's the key to freedom. No, if you want freedom, go get a government job and get your check every 2 weeks. There's a whole lot more freedom in that than there is running a business. So, Jerry, yes, there comes a time where you have to decide, do I really want to go back to me and one guy and we'll just do it? And for some people, that is the right answer. Not for everybody. Some people really have what it takes to run a company, hire a lot of employees, serve a lot of customers, and keep it going. That comes down to your ego, your willingness. I think willingness is the key that a lot of people don't understand. You know, we always hear ready, willing, and able. Everybody's ready, everybody's able, few are willing. And if you're not willing, then it doesn't matter how good you are, how ready you are, how able you are.
Well, you know, my idea of business is a business exists for one reason. The business exists to bring us a return that we can do the things that we want to do, because ultimately you got to be happy. And that's how I deal with this a lot when I see somebody this way. It's like, what is it that's going to make you happy? A lot of times people would look at you or look at me and what we do say, you're trying to grow people to build large businesses. I've been accused of this before, and I'm not. I'm trying to help them build the business that they want, that fits them. And it's, you know, is it small business? Is it just you? That's immaterial, because the goal is to have a business that meets your dreams, that provides what you want in this world, that provides you the return that you can do the things you want to do in this world. Is my way right of looking at this?
You know, it is. I think the problem when people go into business is that they don't start with the end in mind. What's your ultimate goal? How do you want this to end up? What would the desired result be? People think they want to start a business. Now, I want to figure out how you're going to finish your business. How's it going to look when you're done? Is it about you being able to go into retirement with enough money so you are financially free at least? Then let's build that backwards. Is it that you want to create an empire? Like a lot of people are empire builders. You know them, I know them, we can name them. Empire, that's fine. I don't care. If that's it, you do what you want to do, you're exactly right. If that's a solopreneur, if you want to build a big corporation, that's fine with me. I don't care. But you got to know how you want it to look on the backside, not on the front side, the backside, and then you work toward it that way.
And knowing how you're going to get out at the end. You just said the key thing. It's like that's commonly what we do when we work with somebody. If we're developing a business plan or we're helping someone build their strategy, it's like, where do you see the end? Is this, where are you going to come out of this? Let's face it. You've built a business that is built around Larry. If Larry wasn't there, the business is over. There is no another Larry Winget in the wings that's going to come on. It's kind of like, you're not going to be like the Colonel that they're going to come find some actor to impersonate Colonel Sanders again. It's not going to happen because your product is Larry Winget, which is a unique product that no one else can duplicate.
And Jerry, knowing the out is very important. What you just said, knowing the out. And I think you got to and that changes as you age and your financial picture changes and all that. And so you can finally get it down to the place where as you're on your way out, it really is more about happiness than any other thing. What is it going to make me happy? I know in my business, it does not make me happy to do what I did for 25 years, which is get on a plane 250 days a year and travel. That doesn't make me happy anymore. So while I'm still in business, you've got to be willing to be flexible with the way you do things and to get a similar result that fits your needs at the time. Businesses evolve, people evolve, society evolves, the marketplace evolves. Are you going to be quick enough and flexible enough to deal with that and aware enough to get your ego out of the way so that the way you started is you think ahead to the end so you still get the right results and you're flexible on the way with how you get it? I think that's important.
Yeah. Larry, I recently complimented you and I actually got the video from you because I think you have made one of the most impressive videos on Facebook one day. I think it blew you away when I told you how this was affecting people, because what you did was you gave your case of someone who had came to your home and did an excellent job. And you said, but I'll never hire them again. And the reason was that they didn't respect your time. And you made a statement on there, and a couple people have asked me, does he really feel that way? I said, yes. I'm going to tell you something. That guy values his time more than his money.
Yep.
I said, he really does. He has figured out that we've only got so many days. He wants to spend them. He loves to speak. He hates the crap of going through and the stories you can tell about the hotel with the 2 trees you've told and all this kind of stuff. But a lot of people don't know. That's a lot of anxiety of going through these planes and everything. And you reach this conclusion one day that your time and your life was worth more than your money was in this case. I've been to your home. I don't think you're going to starve to death, Larry. I think if Larry Winget wants something, I think he can pretty well get what he wants and go where he wants. But it doesn't mean you're going to throw it out the window. But at the same time, you've developed something here that is, where the value of your time. And that's what I think people can learn about you a lot. I don't think a lot of people understand that about you, Larry.
Well, maybe not. And, you can't go around and tell people everything about yourself. They just have to learn the hard way like you did by spending time with me. But you're absolutely right. about that video. And I remember when you wrote me about that, and you told me since that people did ask you the question, but it is absolutely true. And I think that's what people in the workplace need to remember. Some people are like me, and their time's the most important thing to them. And when you show disrespect for their time, they will cut you off regardless of how good you are at what you do, or whether your prices are good, or whether your service is great, because you disrespected their time. And I think the most honorable thing you can do is show respect to another human being for who they are, what they believe, and for the time and that they put into it. I really believe that. And so it does come down as respect as a core value for me, for sure.
Okay. Well, Larry, I got one more question for you. And I know but you've been on many more stages than I have. And you've shared the thought with me that when you go do a keynote, your goal is that they leave with certain things. And here's my question to you. Of somebody who has given me and you the honor of listening to us, what would be your parting thoughts that you would want that person to remember from the time they have donated to me and you today?
You know, it's almost a motivational cliche, but it goes back to what my point of view is, that your life really is your own damn fault. Your thoughts, your words, and your actions create the results that you're living in every area, from your finances to your relationships to all of it, all of it. You created those results. And if you don't like your results, you got to take control of your thinking, your beliefs, your actions, your words. You have the ability to change it. But it starts with taking responsibility for where you are, figuring out where you want to go, and then getting off your ass and going to work to make it happen. But it'll never work for anybody who has any blame going on in their lives. None. You don't get to blame anybody. It really is. If it's to be, it's up to me. That's the motivational cliche. I word it the other way. Your life's your own damn fault.
That's it. So Larry, here's a couple things. You've written quite a few books.
Yep.
You've read a lot of books. Okay. So the first question is, if you were to share with someone the best book that you've ever written for them to take a look at that could help them change, which book would it be?
Shut Up, Stop Whining, and Get a Life.
Okay.
That's got a little bit of business, a little bit of finance, a lot of personal development stuff in there. That's the book that really put me on the map, was that book.
Yeah. Okay. What about by other authors? If someone is facing this time in life and they're really trying to find that path of how to build their business, whatever, what would you tell them to order off the books from the bookstore today?
If they're in business right now, they ought to read Joe Calloway's book, Becoming a Category of One, because it comes down and it goes hand in hand with McCain's book about creating distinction and becoming iconic. Those are two of his books. It's a crowded marketplace, and the language of the marketplace right now, certain language of the internet, is hyperbole. Anybody can say whatever they want to about themselves, and we see that. Doesn't matter whether it's true or not. So I would be trying right now to figure out how to stand out in the marketplace. I'd also tell anybody in business, your business is a reflection of who you are as a person. And I'm convinced of that. So you need to spend some time on who you are as a person. Everything outside of you gets better when you get better. Nothing's ever going to get better until you get better. So you can't be a jerk. You can't be a creep. You can't be dishonest or not have good core values and expect to run a successful business for long. It eventually catches up to you. So spend as much time on who you are as you do on what your business is doing.
Okay. So here's what I want to let you know. Larry is often a contributor to Fox News. He'll come on and ask him for a unique point of view. And usually they'll have somebody else out there that may have a slightly different point of view. And Larry, when they have that different point of view, does it make you mad, or it's a point of view? Which is it?
Yeah, it make me mad. I don't care. People get to believe whatever they want to believe. And I think what's interesting is when you have points of view that are different and people show respect to each other. So the people who are watching can go, he makes a good point. No, wait, She makes a better point. No way. I like what? And I like the back and forth. Jerry, it comes down to the very first thing we said when we started this. I like people to think.
Yeah.
And when people are presented with respectful disagreement, it does cause them to think.
Right.
I don't want people to agree with me. I won't agree with everything you say or anybody says. The fact that we can respectfully disagree to bring up different points of view and different ways for people to think, the point is they think. That's the strength.
Okay. So I'm going to encourage you, follow Larry. It's Larry Winget fan page. Is that right on Facebook, Larry? And you can look Larry up. He's got books or whatever. I'm going to tell you this. If you have an opportunity to sit there in an audience one day and Larry gives you, he's going to give it to you straight up. He's going to give you his point of view, just like he said, in a way that makes you think. Like I said, this guy has been a tremendous asset to myself, and I'm a hard guy to influence, Larry. You agree with that? I'm a hard nut. Trying to get Larry to influence or Jerry, it's like, hey, we're not the easiest people to influence. But what it does is he presents a point of view. And he told me something one time about talking about sound bites. Can you explain what a sound bite is before we go away, Larry?
You know, sound bites are very short audio clips of people. We see politicians who are good know how to do that. We watch people on the news who are very good at making a point very, very quickly. And that comes from clarity. I think people need more clarity in their lives. What is it you believe that nobody could talk you out of? You know, when I wrote my book, Grow a Pair, I asked people to give me 5 things they believed that nobody could talk them out of. Most of them looked at me like a dog looking at a ceiling fan. People need to go back and discover who they are so they have clarity around who they are and what they believe and what means everything to them. That determines your core values. Your core values determine how your relationships go, how you earn your money, how you spend your money, how you treat people around you, and how you run your business and treat your coworkers and your workers and your employees and your customers. That's important.
Brother, I want to thank you so much for this time today. And so everyone knows today is Friday, right, Larry?
I hope so.
It is. So I know it's early afternoon in Phoenix right now, but it's Friday afternoon. So I can tell you that in a few hours, Larry will be enjoying 2 things. One's going to be some brown liquor, and there's going to be a cigar. Okay?
Right. Brown liquor and cigars on Friday night for sure.
Every Friday, that's what he does. And like I said, you just heard from a guy, don't never make fun of his bulldog. You're going to be in trouble. When you go after Leon, you're in trouble at that point. But
That's right.
Hopefully this has been a time that you picked up some ideas, you've heard some points of view, and you can put these to work in your life. Because I know this, that one thing that probably makes Larry Winget happy, as it does me, is when people hear something and it makes a change in them. Larry, does that make you feel good?
It does. I don't take credit for people making a change. I do like to make people think to the point that they make the decision on their own based on the results they've achieved in their life that they need to make a change. When they go through that process, that's when change has a tendency to stick. And that's what's important. Anybody can change today. When you've experienced the consequences and you say, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to run my business like this anymore. That's when change has a tendency to stick.
Right. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I've seen that smile come across your face when one of your people that you've mentored has reached a dream. I see that smile. You make that that makes you feel good. It's more important than the money. When you see a student of yours reach that level they've attained, that brings a self-satisfaction. That's why we do what we deep down inside. Yeah, we get paid for what we do, but that satisfaction, that's the real reward, or it is to me, Larry. That's it.
I agree with you.
So anyway, brother, I want to appreciate you joining me today. This is your second time on my podcast. Hey, we'll do it again in a year or two when you open for it. And this is Jerry Eisenhower with the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, sponsored every week by the CVC Success Group. Our goal, our mission, what we strive for is to provide you the tools to make your business dreams into your business realities. Isn't it time we had a conversation? Reach out to us at info@cbcsuccessgroup.com. Talk to you next time. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for joining us here each week at the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, sponsored by CVC Success Group, providing you the coaching and educational outreach services you need to move to your dream destination in business and in life.